Austria contributes almost 9% to the GDP, employs some almost 300,000 employees, and almost 20% expenditures are invested in R&D here in Austria in the ICT sector. Just to name a few examples of subsectors that are quite important here in Austria. If you take the Austrian cybersecurity market, for example, is worth $550 million and is expected to grow between 6 and 9% annually through 2023. Vienna, the capital of Austria, is among the top 5 ICT capitals within the European Union. In Carinthia, the most southern region of Austria, the drone zone Austria was created and is exploring the use of drones for cartography and other spatial scientific applications. The aviation industry in Austria, for example, employs 10,000 employees, sort of giving a similar ratio to Germany. Vienna is also famous as a headquarter location for international organizations such as the OSCE and the United Nations Atomic Energy Agency, that are also engaged in the cybersecurity issues and are potential clients for cybersecurity solutions. The United Nations Atomic Energy Agency, for example, is cooperating with the Austrian Institute of Technology on cybersecurity solutions for nuclear power plants. Just to give you an idea of what is happening in Austria in the ICT field. Here you can see some of the world-renowned research institutions in Austria in the ICT field. As mentioned before, the Austrian Institute of Technology is also developing assistance systems and autonomous system together with well-known Austrian corporations. The Vienna Cybersecurity and Privacy Research Center, runs also the cybersecurity cluster in Austria. A not well-known company in Austria called Virtual Vehicle is Europe's largest R&D center for virtual vehicle technology, employing some 300 people, and is conducting research with OEMs such as BMW and Audi. If you talk about the ICT sector, the next question is usually the talent pool. Austria is highly ranked, is a highly ranked education system. Vienna, the capital, is the largest university city in Central Europe, but also the largest German-speaking university city. The graphic shows you the STEM graduates in Austria, and next to public universities, we also have universities of applied sciences, the so-called Fachhochschulen, and high schools called Higher Technical Education Institutes, HTL, that already offer applied technical training, also in the field of ICT. I just want to quickly mention our house rules. Please turn off your microphones. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat video. And if you are not able to ask the questions now, we're always open at any time or later for questions. And here just a quick overview of the services ABA is offering to foreign investors. And here my contact details, Michaela Lauseger, Director of the Americas. This is just a quick run through of what Austria has to offer. I'm gonna stop that now. get back to Daniel and Alberto. Those two are the first panelists. They're going to have a discussion about the Austrian startup Tourradar that is driving the online travel business to the next level with the support of AWS here in Austria. Daniel Zielinski is working for AWS. Alberto Azambuja is the product manager at Tourradar. And they're going to talk about their cooperation and how their unique technology approach is crucial in their business here in Austria. Daniel and Alberto, the forum is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Glad to be here. So, Alberto, we had this talk already, but I want to mention once more, maybe for the audience. So, Alberto is a product manager at Tourradar, and Tourradar is not the common startup, I would say. They're so heavily focused on technology that even the product managers have pro certificates. So a certificate for AWS, a professional certificate for AWS. You could compare Alberto's job like he's the coach of a football team winning the Champions League, and he's also scoring all the goals because he's so technically fond. And I think it's very unique to, for example, Tourradar, that technology plays such a crucial role throughout the whole company. So it would be great, Alberto, to give us some insights. Why is that so? That even your high-level C management understand that IT has such a crucial role, and how do you enforce it? How do you live it? And what benefits do you have out of it?
Well, first of all, thanks, Daniel, for the very warm welcome and for the introduction. So for the benefit of the attendees, my name is Alberto. Just before I start, I would like to add one additional point to all the great things Michaela mentioned, which is the fact that Vienna is actually a fantastic city to live. No doubt about it. I was lucky enough to live in many parts of the world, and Vienna is by far one of my favorite places in the world. So that was before I start. Now, to your question, Daniel, just a very brief intro again to the benefit of the participants. Tourradar is in the multi-day business tours. So we are a marketplace for multi-day tours, and we connect travelers from all over the world. We've also tour operators from all over the world. So basically what we do is effectively, if anybody wants to travel anywhere, we connect those two points: the tour operator that offers that tour, and also the traveler that wants to travel to do a trekking tour in Peru, to do a river cruise along the Rhine, or anything in between, or even to take a tour in Vienna. We also have a lot of products in Austria. It's an Austrian-based startup with a global presence. And to the points that Daniel were talking about, at least in my experience, Tourradar is a very unique company because of the way our teams and our technology is set up. To answer your specific question, Daniel, our founders are very technology driven, and the way we approach problems is also in that way. So for every single challenge or problem that the company has, our primary approach will be to search for a technical solution, which makes us very optimized, especially for the type of operation that we do. We are in the e-commerce business. We are a cloud-only company with the help of AWS. The vast majority of our infrastructure is on AWS, and we approach problems in that particular way. Coming from the top, the company will have a business problem or a challenge that we need to tackle, and the very first approach that we will have is talk to the various teams that would be involved, to the various stakeholders, and our primary approach would also be to try a technical solution. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. So my question here is, when business comes to you and say, Alberto, we need feature X, Y, Z, and you say, okay, we need 2 months. In other companies, then management would say, I give you 1 month to complete it. How is that discussion within Tourradar? How much is business listening to IT, and how much do they trust each other?
I think our approach is very different in the sense that IT is embedded as part of the business. And I can give you a couple of examples of that. On, at least on my experience, on a traditional organization, if the finance department needed some automation for their process, they would have a conversation with IT. Perhaps they would involve some consultant, and they would come up with a plan. A year and a half later or 3 years later, they would have a solution for their automation. At Tourradar, our setup of the company structure is very different because every internal department, be it finance, marketing, business development, customer support, they have dedicated product and engineering teams within the business. So there is a direct relationship between every department and the technology that we use in the company, because the idea is basically that technology is the primary driver for us. So even for supporting departments, they have a direct point of contact and they work together with the product and engineering teams.
And do I have to have some sort of technical background to work in Tourradar? Because it sounds like everybody is technical. And is this a prerequisite, or is this something I learn, or can I have non-technical background as well?
Not at all. I think with time, you will develop some level of technical background. It doesn't matter the function you are within Tourradar. Some level of technical background within time you will develop because you have a direct channel of communication with the engineering teams and with the products teams. We don't hide engineers in a dark room and they sit down and code. They are exposed and they work together with the various departments in the various areas of the company that they are creating features for. So for example, if an engineer on my team needs to get some feedback on a feature that we are developing for the customer support team, he's not going to go through me and I'm going to go through a customer support stakeholder. He's going to go and have a conversation directly with the person he's solving the problem to.
Okay. And this was from a people perspective, and from a company perspective, what is this culture, this approach doing for you in terms of agility, speed, time to market? Where do you see the benefits?
I think it makes an enormous difference in terms of all those aspects that you mentioned. In terms of agility, because we were set up in this particular way, where basically every internal department has an equivalent, if you may, within the larger technology organization of the company, we can optimize things that would potentially never be prioritized on another company. So every department has dedicated resources within the product and engineering organizations to optimize their function. For us, optimization is key. We are a growing startup. Obviously, we need to maintain the costs down. We're in the travel sector, so we are obviously highly affected by the pandemic as well. And without that level of optimization, if we were just throwing people at problems, we wouldn't even be here anymore. So I think this approach is the essence of the company, and it stems from the two founders, from Travis and Sean. Travis is an engineer by trade, which helps, and Sean is a financial markets. His background is in financial markets. They both understand the value of technology for a company. There's a quote that I can't remember where it came from anymore, that every company needs to be a tech company these days. And I think I couldn't agree more. I think if you are not thinking of technology as an enabler or as a critical part of your operation, you're already 10 years behind.
Couldn't agree more. Also to bridge the connection between the two of us, AWS is of course the supporter of Tourradar on your technology journey. Could you give us some insights on how you work together with AWS? How's the support? How do you engage with us? And what maybe also benefits do you have out of this relationship?
Absolutely. I think, and we had this discussion many times before, and we actually had a meeting with one of the solutions architects from AWS literally yesterday or the day before, I can't remember. So we are in constant contact with AWS because AWS as a cloud provider, if you may, is what enables us to have a global presence, and it also what enables us to solve problems in a very fast way. it is impossible to keep up with the speed of technology these days. So normally the way the relationship works is if we have a business problem, we will think about some solutions, and then we would normally contact you and the team from AWS and say, okay, we have this business problem. And I can give you a concrete example. In November, we launched on the German market, and we needed to translate an enormous amount of content for the German market. And obviously, we didn't have the funds to pay for manual translation for all that content. It would have costed, I have no idea if we try to do this with human translators. So we approached AWS back in November, and we're like, okay, we want to enter the German market. Some of our content we did obviously translate with manual translators, all the key content, but we have a lot of long tail content, like a review for a tour, that doesn't need that translation to be extremely accurate. So we approached AWS and we started looking at the products that AWS have, and we put together a proof of concept. We started working together with the team from AWS, not only as a solution provider, but also as a solution developer, to say, okay, this is our architecture, this is how we intend to solve, what do you guys think? And then we get some feedback and we do some tests, and the end result was that our first proof of concept was done in 2 weeks. And that's for a project that I believe on a normal company would probably take 3 years. We delivered the entire project in 6 months.
Totally. And so, I remember back then that we also had a direct contact to the product team of that specific service.
Which really helps us, because it means that we are not using some feature that is an off-the-shelf feature, but we are also driving the development of the product from the AWS side. So I think the benefit is, for us, is huge, but it's also mutual, because this is feedback from real clients. Okay, this product works really well, but if you do those little changes here, here, and here, it can be even better. So it's a true partnership, I believe, in the sense that it enables us to deliver at breakneck speed, and it also enhances the products and the offerings from Amazon.
Nice. So for the last question, before we, I think, open up the panel for questions, if you would have to give one advice to a company which is not technology driven but wants to be, what would that be? To get into this technology motion, listen to technology, combine IT and business, what would that one advice be?
That's an extremely good question. If I can only give one, I don't know how many CEOs, CTOs, and CFOs we have here, but if that one advice would be grab half of your budget that you're paying for some consultant that is probably going to take 10 years to deliver half of the scope that you gave to them, and hire one engineer, and get that one engineer to write some simple scripts together with your people on the ground. The little stuff, you know, the little things that you don't need like this massive solution for, but one little macro in Excel or one little script in Python can solve for you, because this is where the real value is. I think I've seen over and over and over again companies jumping into those massive multi-year projects for digitalization and robot process automation, and having these hefty goals. You know what? Start small. Just
get your hands dirty, right?
Get your hands dirty. Hire one engineer and start solving real problems, like from day one, not sitting on 10,000. I've done it myself. I've sat on 10,000 board meetings and I saw slide decks galore. But the real value is actually on the small things. Like, get your hands dirty, start with one, and then you're gonna see value straight away. Get them to open a free AWS account and put some scripts running there, and happy days.
So you don't like massive PowerPoints and workshops and talking and strategies and whatnot?
Look, I think there is room, and some of this is important, but if you think about the value chain, the amount of effort that goes into bringing very little value with those things is what surprises me. And sometimes the real value is on the small things, you know. Just hire one engineer, automate some of your processes. Don't try to do everything at once. Just do a couple of quick ones and then get the ball rolling. Be a little bit more agile. Don't go for the big projects. Or
bias
if you
for
go,
action, hands on all the way, right?
Exactly, 100%.
Nice. Okay, so we have, I think, a couple of minutes left. I would like to open to the round. So if there are any questions to Alberto, to Tourradar, for me, for Amazon Web Services, feel free to, I think it's okay to unmute themselves, right? So jump into discussion. If not, I will ask one more boring question to Alberto. If you're shy, you can also use the chat, no problem.
I'm shy. Can I use the chat?
Yes, please go ahead. So maybe if I'm allowed to ask a question, to pose a question to Alberto and Daniel, how is the talent situation in Austria? How did you find your talent, and how do you feel? How did you, Alberto, for example, end up in Austria? I would like to get a little feedback on that situation.
Do you want to get started, Daniel, or should I?
My only comment is, Alberto, how do you make sure that not Bitpanda is hiring all the engineers in Austria for you, because they're growing so fast?
They are actually.
Yes.
We're. I can give you one. It's not really confidential information, but our head of talent is now at Bitpanda.
Okay.
Okay.
So there you go.
But go for it. I really like the Tourradar hiring story.
Look, Michaela, I think one of the things that Austria and Vienna facilitates is the location. So the way I ended up in Austria, I'm originally from Brazil, but I lived in Australia for 12 years. And the story that I like to tell is that I got the wrong flight. I was trying to get back to Australia, and then I bought a flight to Austria, and I'm like, okay, I'll just stay here. It's
wrong continent.
Wrong country.
As usually.
No, I'm just joking. I wanted to come and live in Europe, and I honestly did a bit of a short list of cities that I would like to live, and Vienna came up top, and then I managed to find myself a job here, got hired by Tourradar, and here I am. And this is also the story of a lot of the employees of Tourradar. We are lucky enough that before COVID came and we unfortunately had to lay off some of our staff members, we had 45 different nationalities in our Vienna office, which is amazing by any perspective. And the process is, you don't need a lot of convincing to get people to Austria. That's the good thing. Like when Vienna is the first city in terms of quality of life for, I think it's 6 years in a row, if I'm not wrong.
9 or 10 years already.
Something like this, yeah.
10 years in a row. It's very easy to convince engineering teams and product managers to say, oh, come to our headquarters. We are in Vienna. And they're like, okay, Vienna. Yeah, sure. Having that said, the process is not 100% easy. There is a good pool of talent in Austria, but there's also a lot of competition in Austria. But what you get from the Austrian talent is that super high level of education and sophistication. The pool of talent in the neighboring countries also helps a lot. So it's a very good place in that sense, but at least for our size and the speed of growth that we had to hire internationally as well.
Yeah.
Because as Daniel mentioned, Bitpanda is trying to steal all our engineers. No, I'm joking. They're not. We have a really good relationship with them. So.
Super, thank you very much. Yeah, this is a typical situation. I think I've heard stories like that from a lot of startup founders and corporates international that are hiring in Austria, but also internationally. So you know, the market, you can see the size of Austria. You have to think a little bit out of the box. But if you offer, you know, international talent to live and work in Austria, I think this is quite a, you know,
it's a good
nice
benefit.
plus.
Totally
nice
agree.
plus,
totally agree. Yeah.
a nice plus on the contract, I would say. Mm-hmm. How is the situation with AWS, Daniel?
Well,
In that regard?
we are looking for local support, for example, for account managers or solution architects. I think especially in Austria, it's important to have local people because people buy people. And I think as an Austrian, I'd like to talk to an Austrian. Don't get me wrong on this one, but I think like the social aspects is super important. I like to meet people, and when it's not a pandemic, and I think to have this locality, it's important. And in this regard, we're always looking for talented people. And yeah.
What, Daniel? You don't like talking to me, man? Come on.
Absolutely.
You liked me.
Totally. I mean, in person. I don't mind if it's a Brazilian, if it's an Austrian, if it's, I don't know. In person is the more important thing here.
I think everybody is currently sort of sitting, on their toes or standing on their toes and waiting for the next opportunity to meet in person. But supposedly there's light at the end of the tunnel. So we still have 2 or 3 minutes. So if there's any question from the audience, either you unmute your microphone or you put it in a chat window.
If you're shy.
If you're shy and don't want to come up here on the panel. Doesn't look like that, right? Then
You
I would
had the
say,
boring question, Daniel. What's your boring question, man?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a boring. I totally like the story about how you hire and how, or there's a question. Are you maybe open to be delivered by a nearshore company in AWS body shop? I guess that's for Tourradar Alberto, right?
Are you maybe open to be delivered? I don't know if I understand the question.
Yeah.
If you're, I think it's if you're open to be supported by a nearshore company for your AWS topics. So for example, cheap companies from, I don't know, Bratislava, Poland, stuff like that. If I get it right. So that's cheaper to have offshore developers than, for example, developers in Austria. I think, don't get me.
Yeah, Daniel, you're right.
Seems like it's correct, yeah.
Look, we already do use very minimal, but we do have consulting agreements with offshore development. So we already have that in place. But thank you, Jaroslav from Crown Consulting.
Cool. Anybody else out there? What was the boring question? I think it wasn't boring.
It's absolutely not boring. It's how Tourradar hires and how this process is technically replicated and it's with automatic Slack messaging and automatic emails to the hires and stuff like that. So maybe in 2 minutes, Alberto, how do you hire and how does that process look like?
I can give some insight on that. So basically, because especially back in 2018 and 2019, for lack of better word, we were hiring like crazy. We doubled our engineering team, almost tripled in the space of a year. So like I said, with optimization, we also had to optimize the hiring process. And for technical companies, one very common aspect of hiring is the test case. In Tourradar, we do a test case for every position, not only for the technical position. So we kind of had to optimize that because the process was very clunky, that HR would have a candidate and then someone from engineering would create a test case and then send it back to HR. HR sends it back to the candidate and then the candidate responds. That goes back to the technical team to evaluate that test case. That wasn't working. So again, to my previous point, one of our engineers decided we can do better. So he decided to create some very, very interesting automations within Slack that when a new candidate needs a test case, someone from HR can do a little Slack command, and then that creates the test case in our public test case GitHub repository. And then the candidate replies via GitHub. Once the test case is completed or the pull request is done, we get a message via Slack. Someone from the technical team can already jump in and evaluate.
And just to be clear, that's an hiring process, HR, and Alberto is just talking about pull requests, automatic tests, stuff like that.
Look, we have to automate things. Like when you're trying to hire, I think we hired, I don't know, almost 200 people in a space of 6 months. You really need to optimize. I mean,
It's awesome. It's awesome.
We go to very level engineers, for starters. They never like doing the same task twice. So if you ask an engineer to do something twice, that's already the cue for they're like, I'm gonna write a script for this. I'm gonna automate it.
So and if that's not the proof to the example that Tourradar is a truly technology-driven company, then I don't know what is.
Perfect. Thanks, Daniel.
Cool. Sounds really interesting. I'm not an engineer here, so we are still working the other way, the old way that you explained.
As I said before, Michaela, convince the people from Invest Austria to hire one engineer.
One engineer. We're working on one engineer.
Start
definitely.
small, and then you can get a lot of things automated. There you go.
Definitely. Super. So if there are no more questions from the audience and no chat remarks here anymore, I would like to thank Daniel and Alberto for their chat and lively conversation. It was really a pleasure to have you here on the panel, and looking forward to future events with you.
Perfect.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks very much
Thank
for the
you
opportunity.
very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks. And thanks, Jaroslav, for being brave and asking the question.
Definitely.